like to welcome everyone for today's webinar, Energy Without Limits, Reliable Solar for Extreme Conditions. It's brought to you by Anker SOLIX, and specifically focusing on their X1 series. Presenting today is Michael Bengston. He is the Solutions Engineer at Anker SOLIX. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Danny.
Hey, so just quick info, if you guys have questions, there's a chat function. Please feel free to ask your questions as they come up. We will then try to answer those in the chat, but also at the end there will be a we'll ask those questions in the webinar as well. Also, for those that don't know yet, we record all our webinars and post them on YouTube so that you can go and rewatch them later on, or if you have someone in your organization, they can go and watch those afterwards, and you can send them to our Franken Solar link at on our YouTube site. So with that being said, Michael, if you want to take it from here.
Awesome. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Like Danny said, I'm the solutions engineer at Anker. Okay. So I wanted to start off by just talking about 4 specific problems, and then the presentation is going to be Anker's solution to these 4 specific problems. And the first one being the unprecedented weather events that I'm sure all of us are very aware that have happened in the past 2 years. But specifically in 2023, when we pulled this data, there were 28 weather events that happened alone, and each of them cost about $1 billion to fix and repair all the damage done, which is a lot of money. And on top of all of that, the likelihood of experiencing a power outage has doubled due to extreme weather in the past 2 decades. And that's not just due to extreme weather. The next point being the repeated failures and the aging of our electrical infrastructure. So while we do have a huge electrical grid that's very robust, it's also very old, and a lot of it hasn't been upgraded since it was installed over 100 years ago, which can lead to a lot of failures and a lot of points of weakness. We also have a lot of extreme environments in our country for people who live at very high altitudes, to people who live on the coast where there's high humidity, where there's high salt in the air. All of these things can actually be very detrimental to battery systems, and Anker has developed a lot of solutions to those that I'm going to talk to you guys about later today. And finally, there are a lot of areas in the country that still don't have reliable power, and a lot of people still have to use fuel generators of some form in order to attain any sort of power due to insufficient infrastructure. And that's not sustainable economically for those people. So Anker has a solution for that as well. And that would be our X1, at least one of our solutions, being the X1. And here is what that looks like. So this system is modular. And so that means that you can expand its capacity from a power standpoint and from an actual battery capacity standpoint. So on the left stack, this top part here, that is the display. It's also the inverter. And that inverter has a power output of max continuous 6 kilowatts. It can surge up to 12 kilowatts for 10 seconds, but its max continuous is 6 kilowatts. And each one of these inverters can have up to 6 battery modules tied into it, which are the rest of the pieces that you see here on the screen. And each of those battery modules is 5 kilowatt hours. So that means that one inverter can have up to 30 kilowatt hours of capacity, and you can have any amount of batteries in between there. You can have 1, you can have 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. And even further past that is our entire system's max size. Like the max amount of things you can have tied to our system altogether is 6 inverters, so 6 display units. And each one of those inverters can still have 6 batteries attached to it, which means you can have 180 kilowatt hours of usable battery capacity at max with a 36 kilowatt output. And you can mix and match any amount of batteries and inverters that you want up until you hit that number. So our system is completely modular, and you're able to build it to whatever application you guys have in mind. And one of the advantages to being completely modular is that each of our batteries has its own battery management system, so its own BMS and its own energy optimizer. So within each battery, not just for the whole system. So this means that we've eliminated the barrel effect, which is basically in a traditional home battery. It makes the battery's lowest charge, whichever one of the batteries has the lowest charge, the lowest common denominator, becomes the whole system's capacity. So it allows for a lot of wasted energy and you're not able to fully use the system. But our system's answer to that with our energy optimizer means that you can use all of the capacity in each individual battery. So you can fully discharge each battery down to 0, and you can fully discharge each battery up to 100%, regardless of where they start in that charging curve. So you can, which also goes into pairing in new batteries. Since our system is modular, you can add new batteries in the future, or you can remove batteries in the future, and that won't affect the system whatsoever because of the energy optimizer. Each battery will still be able to charge and discharge, even if it's a couple percentage of SOC different from the rest of the batteries in the stack. One of the other modes that's unique to Anker is we have a severe weather mode, or as we like to call it, Storm Guard. And this can be enabled by the homeowner at any time. It's usually set at commissioning, but they can always change it at any other point. But what it does is it allows our system to tap into the National Weather Service. We have an API connection with them. And if there is a severe storm warning or a severe weather alert, and the battery is not charged to 100%, if this mode's enabled, it will allow the battery to purchase power from the grid in order to charge up to 100% before that severe weather event actually happens. So it can ensure that the homeowner actually has a 100% usable capacity battery going into a potential grid outage. Oh, and I should point out that it also notifies the homeowner when that happens. So like you can see here on the right-hand side, so this is the home screen of our user app, and it will send them a push notification, as well as just on the home screen, it will display you are in severe weather mode, so the homeowner knows what's happening. Another cool feature that we have an ATS that's built into our system, and it has a less than 20 millisecond transfer time. So if the grid ever disconnects, the homeowner won't even notice anything happening. There might be a flickering of the lights, but if they're sitting downstairs watching Netflix on their TV, they won't lose Wi-Fi, so they're not going to hit a loading screen on the TV, and the TV will also stay on. So you won't know, none of your appliances will actually lose power if you ever go into an off-grid condition. But that's not the only solution that we have. We have a battery, but we also this year are releasing our microinverter solution, which can be paired directly with our battery system. So it allows homeowners to achieve 24/7 available power, because the solar will charge the battery and power the home during the day, and then the battery will take over and fully power the home after the sun goes down at night. The advantage to using our Anker branded microinverter is that we have the ability to frequency shift at the panel level, which means that we've completely shattered any limitations to off-grid stability with PV. So that gives up to 19.2 kilowatts of usable solar input, both on and off-grid. So it allows the solar to actually grid form when it can frequency shift at the panel level. So you don't need to have that utility connection. And it also increases the usable solar ratio to battery power for up to 300%, when normally the battery power to, or the battery storage to PV ratio is anywhere from 100 to 150%. But we don't just work with our own microinverters. We support any third-party inverter. We are a traditionally AC coupled system through and through, which means that if a homeowner already has existing PV at their house, whether it's a string inverter or a microinverter, All they need to do is land their AC output of that inverter onto our system, and it will work just fine. So that means they'll have up to 80 amps of continuous PV current. And then because our system has relays installed on the PV side, they have 2 levels of stability. So we are able to shut down the PV if it ever becomes unstable. So they don't just have to rely on the redundancy protection of the microinverters themselves. The Anker also has some as well. And here on the right-hand side of my screen, this is what our backup controller looks like. And our backup controller is the AC hub where everything becomes tied together for the system. So everything gets landed here. Specifically in this diagram, we're calling out the PV, but you would land the grid, you would land a generator, we have 2 ports for the batteries that you can land here. And then we have a critical and non-critical terminal for the home loads as well. So this is the hub where everything lands. And so you would land a PV here. And that would allow you to tie in, it doesn't, like I said before, any third-party inverter, or if it's the Anker microinverters, you would land them here as well. Nothing changes about the installation. It will always be the same regardless of what party inverter you're using. But there are a couple limitations that I do want to call out. And this only applies if you're using a non-Anker branded microinverter. So if it's third party, the important things to remember are that it has to be IEEE 1547 compatible, Rule 21, or HECO. If it's not any of those, then you have to make sure that its power output is less than the X1's power output. And that's it. We also have a specific SOP for solar power control. So during off-grid scenarios in our manual, it will walk you and the homeowners through what our system's logic is during an off-grid condition for PV that is not Anker specific. So this is a screen grab of one of the videos we have on our YouTube channel where we actually sprayed our X1 with a fire hose for a pretty long period of time to prove that it was in fact NEMA 4 rated and watertight. So if you guys do want to watch that video, it is on our YouTube channel. It's pretty funny. But that leads me into my next point is our outdoor rating. So we are NEMA 4, which means you can install these batteries in any environment. So they can be outside, they can be inside, they can be on whatever facing wall is available, and it will not violate our 10-year warranty. So you can put these anywhere. Obviously, we do encourage that if it's able to be installed indoors, like in the garage, please install it there if there's space. But if there's not, you can definitely install it outside without worrying that it will void the warranty in any way, shape, or form.
What about temperatures? Like how low can they?
I believe that is my next slide. It is my next slide.
Okay.
So temperatures, great question. So the temperature rating for our system, so I have a graph here. Our power curve for with the temperature is the one that's the big one in the background. So our power curve is rated from 4 degrees Fahrenheit to 131 degrees Fahrenheit. But we do not derate our power at all as long as it's inside that temperature band. So, and the white curve here is what a traditional battery usually does, where it halts charging and discharging at 32 degrees, and it begins to derate power output at about 113, give or take. But Anker doesn't do that. And the reason we don't is twofold. So we have both active heating and active cooling that comes standard. So there's no separate SKUs. When you purchase an Anker battery, you're going to get both of these things. So we have thermal boosting technology, which is a fancy way of saying we have heat strips that we've wrapped around our battery modules inside the casing. And they are a parasitic load, so they can be powered from the battery in an off-grid condition. They can also be powered from the grid, and they can be powered from PV. So we have a way to heat the battery if it starts to get below 4 degrees to get it back up into its temperature band.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So they are heated?
They are.
Oh, I take back what I wrote in the chat then. My understanding was they weren't heated. My mistake.
No, they are heated and standard. That is the standard mode they come in. And we also have active cooling. So we have not just so we have an aluminum case. So our actual case of the battery is aluminum. So it keep in a hot environment, it keeps the heat out, and in a cold environment, it keeps the heat in, which is good. And then we have a heat sink that is on the back of every single battery pack inside the case. So we have an aluminum heat sink, and then we have fans that will blow across that heat sink. So we have double redundancy there. So if the fans fail, there's still a heat sink, but that heat sink is there with the fans to then blow the heat off and keep the batteries cool below the 131 degrees cutoff point. So a little bit more on our reliable power in extreme temperatures. So I've got some power curves here on the right with our max continuous power rating. So in an off-grid conditions at the bottom here, we actually increase our power rating up to 6.6 kilowatts. And then we will derate it linearly from 113 to 122 down to 6. And then once it gets outside our temperature band, it still goes to 0. And once it gets back in the temperature band, it'll go back up to 6. But if you're not in an off-grid condition, your max continuous output stays 6 kilowatts the entire time. But in both conditions, you're still going to have your full usable battery output throughout the entire temperature band. So, and then we have some application limitations here. So 2 things to point out is that since our system is modular, you can have up to 6, like I said before. In order to get the 6 kilowatt output, you do need to have 2 batteries. That's an important key. So you need at least 2 batteries in your stack in order to get the full 6 kilowatts of the inverter, because each battery's max continuous output on its own is only 3 kilowatts. So that is something to consider. So if you just have a single battery with an inverter, it won't have 6 kilowatts of output. It will only have 3. And then more than 2 battery modules are needed in the system to support the 110% continuous off-grid output. So you'll always have 6 kilowatts of output. And if you have more than 2 batteries as well, you'll also get the 6.6. So you just need more. You need more than 2 batteries to get the full power output of the inverter. It's the key point that I should point out there. So we've also thoroughly tested our corrosion. So we have a C5 corrosion rating. So we are rated for coastal and offshore areas with high salinity. And we took some pictures. So after 1,000 hours of salt spray, so they sprayed our X1 system for a long period of time with salt spray, and we took these pictures. You can see that there's very little to no corrosion at all on the system itself. So it will perform perfectly in a coastal environment with high salinity. So another point is we are compatible with backup generators. So if a homeowner has a backup generator existing in their home, or they want to buy one as well on when they buy an X1 system, we are able to support that. And we have 3 modes for it. So we have a priority mode where the generator will start instantly during a power outage. We have an SOC-based mode, so the generator will start based on the battery's SOC, or there's a scheduled mode that the users can set a specific time for the generator to start and stop. And all of this is fully programmable by the homeowner, and it can be changed at any time. So they're never locked into whatever mode they set. They can always change it, which is important. And that generator will land on our backup controller, our AC hub. It has its own terminal. It has a 100 amp bus bar rating, so you can tie in up to 100 amps of a generator with our backup controller. And actually, I'll talk about it while I'm here because I don't think I have a slide on it. During the commissioning process, so if you do have a generator, you have to tell our system, and all you have to do at the end of the commissioning process, it'll ask you, it'll say, do you have a generator? Would you like to commission one with the system? And you can check yes or no. And if you check yes, all you have to do is input the size of the generator, so the power output. That's all our system needs. And then you'll have a set of CTs that you'll have to purchase from the distributor, from you guys. That is the same SKU as the CTs that come standard in our system. We do provide a pair of consumption CTs standard in the box, so they'll just have to buy one more set if there's a generator. They'll plug it in to our dry contact port so that our system can read the consumption of the generator, and that's it. It'll run a system check. So the standard thing you do at the end of the commissioning process of our system is it runs a whole system diagnostic and it makes sure that everything is working properly. So it'll check to see that everything's installed, that the generator CTs are there, and it can detect everything that it's supposed to detect. And so here is a fully labeled backup controller diagram. So you have a slot for the PV, you have a slot for the generator, you have two different energy storage terminals. You have a critical load backup panel, and then a non-critical load backup panel, and a grid connection. So one thing I want to call out is we have some limited form of load shedding here. So in an off-grid condition, this non-backup panel that you see right here on the right-hand side, it will be load shed. So if you lose a grid connection, this terminal will lose its power, and only the critical load, the backup panel here, will maintain the power output of the system. So it allows the homeowner to put some non-critical loads in a separate sub panel over here, and then those can be shed during an off-grid condition. The bus rating for all of these terminals is the same, which is super easy to remember. It's 100 amps. So you have 100 amps for this terminal, and the generator, and the PV. So that's how you're able to tie in up to 6 batteries on these two terminals here. You'd have 3 in a combiner box somewhere out here, and you land 1 here, and you have the other 3 running into a combiner box, and you land them here. This whole backup terminal is rated for 200 amps, so it can fully back up a main panel. And the supported scenarios that we support are retrofits, so we can do existing solar with battery. You could do battery only. You could do a whole new build. Or you could do whole home backup and partial home backup. So our system is completely modular, and it's able to support almost any scenario that a homeowner could possibly need. And here is what comes standard when you purchase our X1 system. So this is what comes in the box. You have the power module, you have the batteries, you have a backup controller. And we have 2 options for mounting. We have a wall-mounted bracket, which is what comes in the box, and then there's an optional floor-mounted bracket that can be purchased separately. So you can either mount them on the floor, or you can mount them on the wall. Included and already installed, so you don't actually have to touch this, you won't even see it, is a Wi-Fi dongle. Since Wi-Fi is required upon commissioning, we have the option already built in and supported, and we also have the port available for a mobile dongle. So if homeowners live in a spot with not great Wi-Fi, or they just don't want to connect their system to their home Wi-Fi, they can purchase from Anker a prepaid 5-year plan mobile dongle. So for 5 years, they'll have data to be able to use their X1 remotely and be able to monitor it. And then there is an optional EV charger that is not available yet. So let's just ignore that, but it is a planned feature we're adding in the future. And then we have 3 different software apps. So we have a homeowner app. So this is what the homeowner will use to program the system after it's been commissioned, and they'll be able to monitor it. Then they have the installer app, which is what the installers will use to commission it, and they will set the initial settings for the homeowner at the very end, and then they'll turn it over to the homeowner to use past that point. And then installers have what we call our O&M platform. So it's a fleet management system, or fleet monitoring system, I should say, where it's a web page that they'll be able to use the same login credentials that they get for their installer app, and they'll be able to monitor their entire fleet on their computer. So you're able to see everything that's been installed. You get to see the status of all of the systems, if there's any errors, or if they're online, if they're offline, if they're off grid, it'll show you. You'll be able to, we have a Google Maps API, so you'll actually be able to click on the map, and then you'll be able to scroll around and see the actual location where all your sites are installed. And then for troubleshooting purposes, this is my favorite part about it, is it actually tells you if there is an error, it will tell you how to fix it. So if a site is having some form of error, it'll notify you on the O&M platform, and then it'll actually tell you, here is the solution to fix the problem. And it'll walk you through it, which is a super handy feature. And then this is just a diagram, a simple single line diagram of everything and how it connects to our system. And that is actually the end of my presentation.
I think one of the things can you quickly add a little bit about who Anker is? Because I think a lot of people, some people are aware of Anker and some people are not. But it is a rather huge success story. Can you tell a little bit about it?
Yeah, of course. So Anker actually got their start on Amazon, believe it or not. So if you guys do know us from anything outside of this battery system, it's all of our charging products that we have on Amazon and in Apple stores. We're actually the only third-party product that can be sold in an Apple store, which is kind of cool. So we make a lot of phone chargers that I'm sure a lot of people, they might not even know they own an Anker portable battery for their phone, but we make a lot of portable batteries that people can charge their phones with. We're known mostly for our fast charging. I don't have any actually on my desk that I can show, but the power adapters that you plug into the wall.
Yeah, I got one of those.
You got, yeah. That's the main thing Anker's known for. It was actually our first $1 million product on Amazon. Was one of our lipstick, this little screw-in adapter that you can charge your phone from. So Anker got their start making portable charging products, and now we're venturing into the space of whole home backup batteries instead of just smaller scale batteries. But Anker, a little more on the success story, is like we are a huge company, and we're global, and one of the cool things about us is like this is not our primary. The Anker X1 is just one of many products, and Anker's not going anywhere. Just last year, they made over $3 billion selling all their other existing products and product lines. And so they're here to invest in the X1 and in this product, and we're not going anywhere. Like they are fully committed to the home energy storage space, and this is their first venture into it. And we're really excited about it.
Yeah, you guys already are selling a bunch of those portable ones, right? That is quite success. The portable home chargers and RV chargers and things like that.
Yeah, the F3800 is a huge seller for us. So we have a separate division, portable power units, and they sell a lot of camping and outdoor life like related things. So a lot of batteries that they're large, more like larger than you'd get on Amazon, but like they're able to power. So if you go camping, and they've got like 7 AC outlets that you can plug in, so you can plug in all kinds of things. And then there's the F3800, which is our closest in size to the X1, but it's a mobile cart that has like almost looks like a carry-on for on an airplane that you can roll around, and it can plug into your RV. You can use it for your home as well. We do sell an ATS adapter for that. So it's a really cool product, actually. Anker's got a lot of battery related products. So this is definitely not a new venture for us. They're very comfortable and familiar in this space.
Yeah, and generally whatever Anker does, it's also known as pretty high end in those specific areas. Be it the RV chargers or the cell phone chargers or anything like that, it's always pretty high end. So maybe Alexa, if you're there, you and Abdel tested this product for the last year and a bit. Do you have any insight from your side?
Yes, we were fortunate that we got the first test system for Canada. I think 1 out of 3 test systems very, very early on that we have installed in our warehouse. We have 2 units, 1 power stack, so the 6 kilowatt plus the 10 kilowatt hour battery plus the main transfer switch, and it's running for a few months now, and we're very excited about the product, how it's being built, the app, the look and feel of the app specifically, also towards customers. It's very easy to understand the power flow and how the system is programmed to achieve whatever the customer wants to achieve with the battery system. That's specifically important for time of use or peak shifting or shifting from day to night or night to day, specifically for the Ontario ultra low topic. So very exciting to have that product, and looking forward to the start of the sales here for Ontario and the rest of the country.
Also, the transfer switch was really probably the best we've seen, right?
Very, very well-built transfer switch with all the bus bars, and there are no cables that actually carry the current. It's all bus bars that are aluminum. They're insulated between each other. All the contactors, the communication board on top, specifically also the separate output at 200 amps without backup functionality. So it's very, very easy to give a homeowner, let's say, a panel that connects the AC unit or maybe EV chargers or the hot tub. So devices that are not necessarily backup focused and are important for in an off-grid or power outage case, that the customer really has the best utilization of the capacity they buy and the capacity of the system at 6 or 6.6 kilowatts AC in that regard. So very, very well thought out and designed. The only downside, as I mentioned earlier, for the Canadian market, the input section from the grid is not Canadian service entrance rated, which means that if you want to use that MID device, so the so-called transfer switch, you would install it after a service entrance rated disconnect, or you could also install it after the main electrical panel the customer already has. That depends a little bit how you pitch it to your customer and what the best way is for you to install the entire system to separate backup and non-backup panels with that system.
Perfect. Alex, are we working with Anker on getting that, getting a physical separation where the
we have mentioned that already almost a year ago. That separation is very hard to implement with the design as it is, because again, the Canadian standards have different requirements than the US standards, and it would result into currently a major redesign of the unit.
Gotcha.
That is not in the pipeline as we speak. But again, the transfers or the disconnect switch that is service entrance related, or the downstream connection from an existing electrical panel, is not the end of the world. Yes, it adds a little bit of cost, but it also gives you as the installer the means of a very easy disconnect means for the entire system if you need to do service on or any other work that needs to go on with that disconnect switch.
Okay, excellent. So let's go over some questions if that works for you, Michael.
Yeah, I was just reading through some of them now.
Yeah. You want me to just read them and then you guys can answer, you or Alex from our side?
Yeah, go for it.
So the question is this a proven thing? We talked to EP Cube, so I guess a competitor, and it turned out to be 2 systems total. I don't know if John can kind of like, do you know what he means with that? So maybe John, if you can elaborate on that question about the 2 systems, that would be great. Then we'll go past this. If John can add in the chat, that would be great. So big question about the outdoor rated and suitable to minus 45 degrees Celsius. So it is a heated unit, as you mentioned. What about like if it goes below the, I think it's minus 4 Fahrenheit, which is minus 20 Celsius. What happens in a minus 30 scenario?
So it will stop discharging or charging, like whatever operation it's taking, or if it's not even taking an operation, if it's like just standby mode, it will just not be able to charge or discharge until it's back within that temperature band.
Does that mean that you lose the warranty?
No.
No, it will not affect the warranty.
No.
Okay.
The only thing that affects the warranty is the lifetime, so 10 years, or the throughput of the battery. So a lot of manufacturers, their warranty is based off of cycles, and we thought that was kind of annoying because everyone defines a cycle differently. So we just said, all right, we're going to just aggregate the throughput of the system to 16.45 megawatt hours per battery module, not per system, per battery module. So if you have 6 batteries, that's 6 times 16.45 megawatt hours. That's a lot of potential capacity throughput through each of your batteries If you do that before the 10-year mark, then you voided the warranty. But those are the only two things we consider: the lifetime of the installation, and then the amount of throughput.
Okay.
What about if we use like a customized enclosure to install these batteries inside them? Is that okay or no? To maintain the -4 Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah. If you want to put them in a custom enclosure, that and as long as they're mounted and installed the way that they're supposed to be, you can put them in any sort of enclosure that you want. It's not going to affect our system at all.
Okay, thank you.
Can these batteries be AC coupled with any microinverter?
Yes. So there's absolutely no communication requirements. So as long as that microinverter or string inverter has an AC output, you can land it on the PV terminal and it will work just fine. But just remember the limitations that I said on that slide of you have to make sure that it's IEEE 1547 compliant or HECO or California Rule 21. I'm not sure if you guys have anything specific in Canada that would be equivalent to those. But that's at least how it is here in the United States.
And the other, caveat here is that the Anker microinverters will be visible on the monitoring platform as on a module level. Kind of, you can see the production of each panel. Whereas if you're using something like a Heumal's or AP Systems or Enphase, then you would only see the total production of the system, to my understanding. Is that correct?
Yes. That actually leads me to answer a couple other questions that I was reading here
Go for it.
earlier. So so if you use our microinverters, the advantage to using our branded microinverters instead of another third party is, like you said, so you get the panel level visibility, which you normally would have to go to the third party app, right, to monitor your panel level power output if you want to. Otherwise, our Anker app will just aggregate it into a single reading, which is good enough, but it's not. Some homeowners want more than that. So if you use our Anker branded microinverters, you get panel level visibility, you get panel level frequency shifting, which is different from just curtailing the power at the terminal, which is what we do for third party inverters. So we just curtail the power output at the terminal, which is not nearly as efficient as frequency shifting at the panel itself. Yep. Which is what that whole slide's big point was just being able to be more efficient with your energy production. Because when you curtail at the terminal, it's just it's a very crude and inefficient way of doing it. But since we don't have communication with those third-party inverters, or those third-party inverters might not even have the ability to frequency shift, it's just not something we can do. Which I think that was a question or two that I saw earlier in the chat.
Yeah. They're made in China, the batteries, I believe, right?
Yes, they are made in China, which is where Anker is based.
And then there's the question on copy of datasheet. Alex, I think we're going live with all the products in our online shop. When do you think we'll go live on that?
Probably by the end of the week, we have everything live.
Okay. So if you buy,
we also have on our website for anyone who wants the data sheets and the certifications that we have. If you just go to our website, they're there. The X1 website has all of that. So you can download all of those certificates and all of the manuals and data sheets and so forth.
Yep. What sort of equipment is needed for paralleling coupling systems? Will it be proprietary Anker equipment?
I don't know if proprietary is the right word, but the way that we tie our systems together is through MC4 cables. So while the units do stack, they don't auto mate. Right, so you do actually have to make a power connection, but they're pre-cut, pre-made MC4 connectors that ship in every box, so that you can tie them together. And so if you were going to tie two stacks together, you'd buy. We have an accessory kit that is its own separate SKU. That's like an extended version of those MC4 cables, because you're going to run them under and up into the bottom of the battery module that you're connecting to. Perfect. But it's all the same. They're not different cables, I guess. So it's all standard Anker equipment, and their MC4 connections are not proprietary. But
Yeah, of course.
Since we sell the pre-made and prepackaged everything, I think it's probably just simpler to just purchase it through us. But no, you can definitely, as long as you have an MC4 connection and you have an 8-gauge cable,
Perfect.
theoretically it could work.
Then Raz was asking about pricing. It is already on our price list. If you do receive our price list, if not, please reach out to us. And as I said previously, or Alex said, by the end of the week, we'll also have these products in our online shop, and you'll be able to get pricing from there as well. What else do we have here? Lead time, really important one. I do believe there's product in the country from Anker in Canada. So lead time is 1 to 2 weeks. We don't have anything here yet, but lead times are quite short at the moment.
Yeah, we have multiple storage facilities all across the United States, and I don't know if we plan on having a warehouse in Canada yet. So that could be an update for the
I do believe there are some here, right, Alex? That's what Pongfei said.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
What else is there? Still lots of questions. It was a very interesting topic, I guess. Don't think we've ever had this many questions about a product. Here's a comment from Raz saying Anker makes the best stuff. I used their sound core on the Bluetooth headphones, so there you go. UL 9548 tested, yes, as Alex said.
I see a question here about controls built into the monitoring system that allow you to change settings remotely. Yes, so you can change any setting remotely from the app, but to start the generator remotely, no. So the second part of your question, that'll only start based on the programmed conditions that you've set, which you can change at any time, but you can't just like press a button in the app and start the generator.
This may be a question for you, Alex. Bilal asked if Franken Solar will be carrying any service entrance rated switches.
We're looking into that right now, and there might be an update in the future.
Question from Green Kilowatt about Franken Solar carrying the Anker microinverters. Yes, that is the plan. I'm waiting on pricing still. We will, as soon as I have pricing, I'll of course let you guys know. And it'll be on the price list. Discharge. There's so many questions. Oh my goodness. In an off-grid mode, will the inverter frequency shift the solar inverter to curtail power when the battery gets full? This assumes the solar inverter is 1741 SB.
Yes, it will do that at the terminal, not at the panel, but it will curtail the PV output if the battery is fully charged, and if you cannot discharge that solar anywhere else.
This is a good question from Green Kilowatt. Are there any controls built into the monitoring system that allow you to change settings remotely or start a generator remotely? I guess the start of generator has already been answered, but
yeah, so any settings that you have, like all of the settings for our system can be remotely changed using our app. So the homeowners or the users, I should say, have full ability to change all of their settings at any point in time. And they're not just limited to using the app via Wi-Fi. So if for some reason their Wi-Fi goes out, they can just use Bluetooth and they can walk up to their system and just connect to it via Bluetooth and then change the settings that way.
Awesome. I think that's it for questions, but yeah, really appreciate it again for Michael for coming and doing this presentation for us. I think it's very informative. Looks like a really cool product. We're really excited about it. And hopefully we can have some more of these presentations in the near future.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for showing up. That's a lot more people than I thought. So, which is cool. I appreciate everybody's time.
Of course. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.